And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region on this Sunday, January 26, 2025. And boy, there is a lot to talk about, so much so I even have a little note card to make sure I don't forget a few things, because normally I'm pretty good about being able to keep things going once I get talking here, but there is so many things going on. We've had a large moisture-laden low-pressure system come up out of the North Pacific across the Alaska Peninsula, and it's going to make landfall into the southwest interior this Sunday evening and Sunday night. It's had an atmospheric river associated with it. This is a deep push of moisture that comes out of the subtropics and comes northward. It's brought rain, wind, flooding, avalanches to southern Alaska along the Gulf Coast, areas in the cold air further north, the central southwest interior down into the eastern Aleutians, and now moving up into the lower Alaska Peninsula. We have heavy snow, some cases ice, and strong winds creating blizzard conditions. And the thing is, once this system begins to weaken and move east, it's going to turn colder across the mainland here early in midweek, with active weather shifting into the panhandle as we head into Monday and Tuesday, though not as significant as to what we've seen so far this weekend. So way up in the northwest of the Bering Strait, Wales is under a blizzard warning for later this evening into Monday. Air temperature 15 below zero, and they're going to get winds gusting out of the north at 60 miles an hour, creating blizzard conditions there later this Sunday evening and into the day Monday. Now, McGrath has experienced heavy freezing rain, the temperature as of mid-afternoon right up around the freezing mark. But here's what's notable. McGrath has picked up probably at least, if not more, than an inch of icing. And to make matters worse, the cold front that's going to bring in that Arctic air will be pushing through this area tomorrow with winds gusting 50 to 60 miles an hour. That's going to take down trees and tree limbs, so that is not good news. But very rare to have that kind of severe icing, freezing rain there at McGrath. So very unusual in that setup there. Now, further south and west, Marshall up there through the lower Yukon Valley. Blizzard conditions. We have blizzard conditions, St. Mary in that area, Mountain Village down toward, as we get down toward areas like the Yukon Delta. Temperature 15 degrees. It's even a bit colder than that toward Imanik, readings there in the single digits. Dutch Harbor picked up 1 to nearly 2 feet of snow yesterday and early this morning. And that is letting up. Again, just an unusually heavy snow event there. Plus, they had strong gusty winds creating blizzard conditions at times. Those blizzard conditions are shifting eastward up into the lower portion of the Alaska Peninsula. That would include Cold Bay, False Pass. Now, Cordova has steady rain and breezy conditions, 40 degrees. The atmospheric river, that feed of moisture, is shifting from along the eastern Kenai and Prince William Sound to the northern and northeastern Gulf Coast, but it's going to lose some of its punch. Not so steady as like what had been coming up into south central all weekend long. And Skagway, mostly cloudy this Sunday afternoon, 40 degrees, few breaks in the clouds, but that area in the northern panhandle under a winter weather advisory for later tonight and especially Monday into Monday night. 6 to 9 inches of snow could fall along the Klondike Highway, especially as you get up there toward White Pass. So here we have the current advisories, warnings, what have you. I'm just going to mention, okay, these areas in red are winter storm warnings. We have high wind warnings through the Alaska range. So let's focus in a couple things. So the Elliott Highway here, just northwest of Fairbanks to Manly Springs, that area has received around or just over 30 inches of snowfall. There's a report of a convoy of trucks working its way out of there. Went down to one lane, asking people not to go there until that passes. And then along the Alaska range, there have been wind gusts as high as 96 miles an hour at Donnelly Dome. And the Delta Junction airport site there reported a wind gust of 81 miles an hour. Tok hit 51 degrees today. So again, these strong downslope Chinook winds, but then back to the west in the colder area. Minchumina has had a mix of precipitation, the heaviest being freezing rain around McGrath. We're still waiting to get reports out of there. If you can send something out of McGrath, we'd like to see some pictures and know what's going on, because I can tell you just from what I've seen since yesterday, there's been well over an inch of icing. And then heavier snowfall back through this region, middle, lower Yukon Valley. There's the blizzard warning for the winds that are going to increase. North winds increasing there along the western Seward Peninsula and areas like Shishmaref under a winter weather advisory for blowing and drifting snow as well. Now, as we look here into South Central, these are avalanche warnings. Still a high wind warning for the hillside there of Anchorage, but these are avalanche warnings. I'll talk more about that in a moment because we had another avalanche late yesterday afternoon. And even though the rains have started to let up, there's still some potential. The flooding there around the Anchor River because there's some ice jamming as well as just heavy runoff. So the road that runs down there off the Sterling Highway down to Anchor Point, number of spots there have water over the road there. And we had up in Hatcher Pass, there was an avalanche, and I'll show you some pictures with that. Now, as we go further south and west, we have the blizzard warning now for the lower portion of the Alaska Peninsula, including Cold Bay, False Pass. Not as much snow as on Alaska, but you're looking at several inches with winds gusting 50, 60 miles an hour. Colder air coming in on those north-northwest winds. Bethel area still under a blizzard warning. The areas near and just north and west of Bethel could receive upwards of 2 feet total from this storm. And then here's an image, what happened late yesterday afternoon, upper Little Susitna River. You know, if you take the highway that goes up to Hatcher Pass from Palmer side, and you go past these there's a couple of campgrounds. One of them, well, this avalanche came down over and blocked the upper Little Susitna River. Water starting to flow through and around that. Fortunately, though, there's enough passage for the water to go through the campground area. There's a outhouse here, and the campsites are right along the river for the summertime and fall. But nevertheless, good news is it's not going to go over the roadway, but still another avalanche, and that threat is with us. Here's another viewpoint of that avalanche. Came across the river nearly 30 feet high. You can see the water back up behind there, above the river there, above the avalanche taken from the roadside. So we still have avalanche warnings for Hatcher Pass, the areas through the eastern Kenai that include Turnagain Pass, Summit Lake, Moose Pass, and then the areas on the mountains there up around Valdez and to the east, including Thompson Passes. We've had this warm air. We've had a lot of heavy precipitation, heavy wet snow in the upper elevations, rain in the middle lower levels, and then strong winds. So that all comes together to make for not good conditions that make it very dangerous. So avoid backcountry activities in these areas because it's until things stabilize. Now, looking at the satellite imagery, here's that feet of moisture, that atmospheric river. Look at it just still coming on in, but it's going to begin to shift and turn this way toward the Panhandle later tonight and tomorrow, though not quite the same moisture feed as what was coming into this area earlier in the weekend. Here's the low pressure crossing here coming on shore right around, it'll cross probably Cape Newingham and then move inland into the southwest and west central interior as we head through later this Sunday night and early on Monday morning. So the low pressure itself is not especially strong, down in the 980s millibars, but it's the size, it's the wind field, the broader wind field associated with it, and the transport of tropical moisture coming all the way northward and then coming up here into the colder air over especially the interior Alaska. It's along and north and west of this frontal boundary. It's been the winter precipitation, and now we have cold air wrapping in down here across the eastern Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula. So again, this is just a very potent system. It will gradually begin to weaken here as we get into Monday, and the initial lead front, occluded front, will kind of wash out as it gets toward the Panhandle. But that's what's pushing the snow into the northern Panhandle tonight and early Monday. We'll see the focus of the rain, the steadier rains up there along the eastern Kenai, Prince William Sound. It'll be more of lingering showers, and then with this frontal passage tonight, there'll be some gusty winds, and then here comes a secondary front. That little disturbance could also have some gusty south-southwest winds. The Homer Spit will have to watch for strong southwest winds during the day on Monday because of just the wave action there on the Spit has caused some damage and problems in the past. So as we look on Monday, we'll have this weakening trough, but the precipitation still across areas of the Panhandle, not as heavy as what it was over South Central. And finally, this snow and that will begin to break up, become more patchy out over the interior. And then by the time we get into Tuesday, another low coming out of the North Pacific will bring another round of snow to areas of the central northern Panhandle, especially in the mid-upper levels of the mountains at sea level, mainly some rain. And then back to the west, colder air building into the mainland for a brief time this coming week. Some of the coldest temperatures Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, but especially Wednesday, Thursday mornings will be in the 20s and 30s below zero after seeing temperatures briefly up near or above freezing in here. The other issue I want to mention, again, McGrath, given all that heavy freezing rain and the accumulation of ice on the trees and structures, when you get those strong winds coming in here on Monday with the frontal passage, that could really knock down some things and cause power outages as well. So looking at temperatures, here we have the sub-zero readings beginning to show up along the west side of the state, all the way down into the lower Yukon Delta, 13 below at Savunga, 14 below there at Wales. And temperatures still near freezing, say, Anchorage Bowl on over toward Cordova, and readings generally still a bit above freezing there in the Panhandle. Highs Monday afternoon, we're looking at temperatures still a bit above freezing there, Fairbanks and up through the upper Tanana Valley. But notice the colder air is coming eastward gradually. And then look at that, Tuesday morning, below zero along and north and west of the Alaska Range. So big cool down coming. And then by the time we get into Tuesday afternoon, high temperatures will not get above zero west and north of the Alaska Range. And eventually, this air mass will modify a bit as it comes east, but everybody's going to get in on the cool down. It'll take a little longer. The Panhandle will cool down as well for the latter half of the week. And if that's not enough, so we get this shot of Arctic air come across the mainland this week, then we get another system come out across the Bering that's going to pull some milder air along areas of the southwest coast, but spread more snow and wind up through this region for this upcoming weekend by Friday into next Saturday. So again, we just repeat a process that may actually moderate temperatures again along the Gulf. So here's a reflection of that. Saturday, February 1st into early the following week, the beginning of February, we get this brief shot of Arctic air come across the mainland this coming week. And then by next weekend, another fairly strong Bering Sea low coming across like this is going to force warmer air up along the west side of the state, especially the YK Delta and lower basins down to Bristol Bay and along the Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians. Meanwhile, remnants of that cold air working east will keep the Panhandle below to perhaps much below normal temperatures. So again, you in the Panhandle, get ready for a big cool down after you get by a couple of systems here during the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. And then precipitation should average below normal along the Gulf Coast and especially the Panhandle, just signifying a colder, drier air mass. But with that feed of moisture coming in off of the Bering, we expect precipitation to average above normal along and north and west of the Yukon River, with the greatest probability of above normal precipitation across the Seward Peninsula, as well as the western Brooks Range and the western North Slope, February 1st through February 5th.